Welcome and thank you for joining me for another venture into one of my books. This is Marosa's book 2, The Bloodstone, and this is one of my favorite chapters. This is called Trial of Flame. Brittany walked through the doorway hesitantly. She had discovered that she had not walked unscathed from the battle with the fire pit scorpions. Her body ached and her exhaustion was nearly overwhelming. She decided, however, that it was far better than it could have been, and she was still marveling that she had survived the encounter at all. The room was shaped like an octagon. The stone floor was bare as the 8 walls without fixtures save for the iron brackets in the wall that held the torches. There were no visible passageways save the one that she had come from. The flames in the brackets sputtered and went out. Darkness filled the room. Great. Brittany drew the longsword in anticipation. To her amazement, Ravenswing was a luminescent red, bathing the room in its ruddy glow as it was removed from its sheath. A grinding sound roared behind her, and she turned to discover that her way back was blocked just as it had been when she escaped the fire pit scorpions. You have passed all the tests, 3 soft voices spoke in unison, but their cadence seemed unnatural and scratchy as though it was part of a poor recording. Accept the trial by fire. Beware, the voices said as the flames of the torches blossomed back to life. As she watched the flames grow larger, beware. The voices echoed through the room, chilling her to the soul. The flames of the torches erupted into exploding balls of flame. The sword vibrated as though in response to the danger, but what could a sword do against fire? Brittany sheathed the long sword and pressed her back against the rock, preventing her escape. The fire roared toward her as a single sheet of flame as the 4 fireballs joined together into one gigantic burst of flame. Memories from dozens of lives flooded through her mind, searing through her consciousness, threatening to overwhelm her. The sheer scope and breadth of those experiences of hundreds of her lives made her fall to her knees during the few precious seconds of the time she had left. Brittany screamed. As the hair on her arms began to be singed, her mind seized upon a series of memories. She remembered entering a black tower. The memories fled to her as her mind picked through the pertinent information. The desperation that had driven her into the spiked tower had been born of life on the streets as an orphan in a city named Aorta. Of course, he had gone in first. They met on the streets, counting on one another to survive. When he left, she had the choice of entering the tower or joining a brothel. None of that matters, Brittany had to remind herself as she felt the heat of the raging inferno threatening to consume her. Suddenly, Brittany knew what to do to stop the fire from burning her to a cinder. The answer was so stunningly simple and clear in her mind that her heart nearly stopped cold. All of her life, it had been waiting there, just beyond reach, but so familiar that she ached to feel the thrum of magic once again. Calling upon the immense source of power that she was newly aware of, she felt the energy coalesce at the bottom of her feet, and then flooding through the very pores of her skin. Her skin crackled with the red energy as little forks of lightning encircled every limb, and her blonde hair lifted from her shoulders to float in the air. Her feet left the ground as her eyes closed in ecstasy. To think this had always surrounded her, the sheer knowing and oneness caused tears to stream down her cheeks. At long last she felt complete. Brittany centered the call of power on a single thought: water. Moisture began to beat along the edge of the floorboards beneath her toes. Despite the blistering heat of the wall of flame rushing towards her, the puddle grew with agonizing slowness. Drop by a lonely drop, it gathered until it pooled beneath Brittany, called from every corner of the room. The puddle of water formed itself into a large circle directly below her floating body. With sheer strength of willpower alone, Brittany drew the forming puddle upward, forging it with her mind into a sphere. All of it took only a few seconds, and yet it felt like an age. Steam erupted as the fire engulfed the sphere of water, and was forced into 2 separate sprays. Abruptly, she was slammed backward. At first she did not understand what had happened as she stared at the churning wall of water before her. The events of a moment before seemed distant and fuzzy, but she understood what she had done. She had used magic. Beyond the water, she could barely see the whirling inferno of fire that would have burned the flesh from her bones. A wall of steam separated her from that inferno, and she felt surprisingly cool within the sphere of water that surrounded her. Gently, her feet reached down to touch the ground, first her toes, and then she settled down upon her heels as her hair swished down over her shoulders once again. She took in a few deep breaths, only now she realized she had been holding it during the entire span of a few seconds in which she had summoned the protection of water. To think she could wield magic. Her mind was struggling with clinging sanity. Too many voices and memories were shoving their way to the surface, threatening to take control. All of them were bent on survival. Tentatively, doubting that the sphere of water would stay in place, she took a step forward. The watery glow of protection stayed with her as she moved forward through the room, glistening gold with the reflected light from the fire. A doorway had opened on the far side of the circular room, between 2 torch brackets. She walked quickly towards it, too afraid to run, as the minutes slipped away. Brittany was amazed that she hadn't run out of time. The conjuring had felt like an eternity, and yet she knew that it had taken less than a minute. She stepped into the doorway as the ear-piercing cry of a bell rang through the temple. Wincing, she covered her ears protectively. As the high-pitched sound wave rumbled past her, it shook dirt free from the very walls. The room ahead, apparently, was the epicenter, and she held no illusions that the noise marked the completion of her trials. And that is the end of the scene that I'm going to read. So I hope you enjoyed that, and don't mind my little one banging on the brass gong in the background if you can hear that. Take care and bye for now.